Happy New Year, everyone.
Likewise. Stop. My dog is very out of habit of long Zoom meetings. I hope he behaves. He's looking at me with those eyes where I can tell he's not going to behave. Good morning, Brian.
Morning.
Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
Hi, Mark. I think we're waiting for, hi, Shireen. I think we're waiting for a couple more commissioners, which I believe both of them are expected, correct? Okay. Good morning, Commissioner York.
Morning.
Oh, there's Vice Chair Watchman. Okay, I think we have everybody on the line. Brian, yeah, Val, you want to give me a go ahead? We good to go? Oh, Vice Chair Watchman just left the meeting.
Oh.
We'll wait a minute. Oh, there he is. All right, we good to go? Okay, welcome everybody. Happy New Year and a very happy birthday to Roy. We have a celebration today. So wishing you all good things in the year ahead. And with that, we will dive right in. Agenda item 1, call to order and roll call. 1A, call for quorum. It is 8:02 Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. I call this meeting of the Independent Redistricting Commission to order. For the record, the Executive Assistant, Valerie Newman, will be taking roll. When your name is called, please indicate you are present. If you're unable to respond verbally, we ask that you please type your name. Val.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Watchman.
Present.
Commissioner Lerner.
Present.
Commissioner Meal.
Present.
Commissioner York.
Present.
Chairperson Newberg.
Present.
And for the record, also in attendance with Executive Director Brian Schmidt, Deputy Director Lori Van Haren, Public Information Officer Michelle Crank. From our legal team, we've got Brett Johnson and Eric Spencer from Snell and Wilmer, Roy Herrera and Daniel Ariano from Herrera Ariano. And we've got Mark Flahan and Brian Kingery from Timmins, Doug Johnson and Ivy Beller-Sikansky from NDC Research, and our transcriptionist today is Angela Miller. That is everyone, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Please note for the minutes that a quorum is present. Agenda item 1B, call for notice. Val, was the notice and agenda for the commission meeting properly posted 48 hours in advance of today's meeting?
Yes, it was, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, approval of minutes from December 22nd, 2021. We have 2A, our general session. We had 1 executive session, 2B, where we sought legal advice regarding constitutional criteria. Is there any discussion on the minutes? If there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the general session and executive session minutes from December 22nd of 2021.
This is Commissioner Meal. I move we approve both of those sets of minutes.
Vice Chair Watchman seconds.
With no further discussion, Vice Chair Watchman.
Aye.
Commissioner Meal.
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye. With that, the minutes are approved from December 22nd. Thank you, Val. Sorry, I hear an echo. I don't know if everybody hears the echo. But, agenda item 3, opportunity for public comments. Public comment will now open for a minimum of 30 minutes and remain open until the adjournment of the meeting. Comments will only be accepted electronically in writing on the link provided in the notice and agenda for this public meeting and will be limited to 3,000 characters. Please note, members of the commission may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. With that, we will move to agenda item number 4, discussion on public comments received prior to today's meeting. I open it up as usual to my colleagues to see if anybody has any responses or comments. All right, I would like to just again thank everybody, the public, for their incredible involvement and discourse. I know we just completed, a very intense, very serious deliberation process. I know some, are not happy, and there's a variety of reactions. I just want to comment that after, having the time to absorb it all, I feel really good about the work that we've done. I feel really good about the maps we've delivered to the state. I believe these maps are going to bring even more talented and qualified candidates to be running in our districts. I think regarding our congressional map, I think communities of interest were really well respected. All regions are represented well, the urban, the rural. 1/3 of our districts are competitive. 2, so extremely competitive that these districts elected Biden, Kelly, Brnovich, and Ducey. That's pretty independent. 5 of the 9 voted for Biden and Kelly. the best candidates are going to win. Regarding the legislative districts, I think we did our best to maximize as many communities of interest having representation as possible. There are 5 competitive districts, 4 of them extremely so. The party that will come out with leadership will be the party that puts forth the talented and best candidates. Our minority communities were very well, I think, represented. The Latinos legislative requests, the 7 majority minority districts were overwhelmingly accepted per their desires. The Native American community, I think, was able to secure their ability to elect a candidate of their choice. I think we did a really good job of trying to strengthen the unification of minority groups that have community of interest and political cohesion, like our African American and Asian communities. No map is going to be perfect. We'll see how they hold up over, the next 10 years, but I have nothing but the greatest appreciation and respect for my colleagues and the public for everybody's participation in the process. With that, we'll move to agenda item number 5, update from our mapping team. And we have 2 items, an update on the constitutional criteria data review on the adopted maps, and 2, the discussion of county election officials' technical change requests to the congressional and legislative maps. We do have the ability to go into executive session, which will not be open to the public, for purpose of obtaining legal advice to further implement and or advance these legal issues if necessary. I turn it over to Doug and Mark.
Good morning. I think we'll take B first. The final approved draft maps were sent over to the county, both for legislative and congressional. Out of all the counties, we received 6 responses back. We're currently processing their responses and working on seeing if the data will fit into the map. So we're still processing their requests. Some counties had just only a couple requests. Some counties had a couple dozen requests. So we're processing that, getting it completed as fast as we can. For topic A, I'll turn it over to Doug.
Mark, can I ask a question? What happens if counties don't submit any feedback? Is there any additional review on your part just to make sure that there aren't any, unexpected divisions and things like that? Or do we just not worry about it?
Doug might be able to elaborate a little bit more, but we plan on still looking for all the little slivers of data, whether the county actually turned anything in or not. So maybe a block here or there, or weird looking shapes. We still plan on doing that review, but if we don't receive anything from the county, there's no way to really get any of their feedback or solicit any of that and incorporate it into the administrative changes. But we are doing our best to try to at least look at the splits and incorporate that into the final official map. Doug, do you have anything to elaborate on that?
No, I think you said it perfectly. Just we'll do that review just to make sure we don't have any little slivers of a city or anything like that removed, but we won't be checking for like 0 population precincts and those kinds of things that only the registrars can check for.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, on that, we are making every effort to reach out to counties to make sure they get back to us. We just haven't heard back from some. So we'll continue to do that.
Well, there's valid reasons with the holidays and the virus and all of that. So
Could I ask what our end date is to receive any word from counties? Like, what is the last possible date for them to reply?
The original deadline was Thursday of last week. We did extend it for one county to Friday since they asked, but that was the deadline.
So what happens? I guess my question is, what happens if since Executive Director Schmidt said they're still reaching out to counties, what if they submit something this week?
We will do our best to get it incorporated into the map. If it's a couple changes and we receive it this week, I don't necessarily see it being a problem. But if it's dozens of changes, and depending on what the changes are, that could lead to more of a lead time to get it processed.
Yeah, as you might imagine, at this point, we have to be extremely careful and meticulous in our work and make sure that nothing gets messed up or slips by. So we do need to take our time, and the clock is ticking on them for sure.
Thank you.
And on the on the employees voting side of it, we don't have any new data to present today.
Okay.
So I thought we were going to hear the constitutional. I have a few comments about that. Am I able to express those, Chairwoman? Because I thought we were going to hear some review of the constitutional. Is that what, that wasn't that 4A? I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding. 5A,
Yes,
sorry.
I'm not sure, what you had in mind with that, but by all means, if it's relevant to the topic, I don't see, I think council would agree that there's no reason not to give you the floor.
Thank you. So I didn't know if you were going to be, again, reviewing the constitutional criteria. I know we did that at one point earlier in the process, but that's what I was, so you're saying you have no updates on that at this point. Is that correct?
Incorrect.
Okay. All right. So I do want to make a couple of comments about the constitutional criteria that I actually have some real concerns about. I already expressed my concerns on legislative. I'm not going to repeat anything that I've already expressed on the legislative on December 22nd, but I do have concerns about the congressional and whether or not they meet all of the constitutional criteria. So am I able to express that at this time, Chairwoman?
I'm going to defer to council on this one. If this is the appropriate time, place. I mean, it's fine for me, but I don't know if this is directly relevant to, what we have agendized.
Chairwoman, can you hear me? It's Brett.
Yes.
So the purpose of this agenda item was for the mapping consultants to present their information that they've collected over the period of time and any other kind of constitutional criteria that they've established. In regard to deliberation on the existing maps and whether it's going to happen, that could either be, that will be obviously agendized for the final determination, but it's a pretty broad item. And if the other commissioners wanted to discuss some of those issues now to possibly bring up at a different meeting, that's fine too. But it was really meant for mapping to give their report on the constitutional criteria. I don't know if Roy agrees or disagrees.
Excuse me, I agree. Commissioner Lerner, I think the description is broad enough. So if you're discussing the constitutional criteria and how the maps comply with them, or whether they comply with them, I think that would fit within this. But given that Timmons is not going to be presenting any particular data on it now, it may be more appropriate to wait until we have the full presentation at the last meeting, but it's really up to you. I do think it would fit within the agenda item if you want to, do an exposition now.
I'm fine doing it now, and then they can present what they want to present, or the next time. But I just have some things about the congressional that I wanted that relate strictly just to constitutional. That's all I'm referring to. Nothing other than that. So if that's okay, I'll go ahead. If not, I can wait till the next meeting.
Your choice. There's enough room to do as you would like.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do it now because I don't know what our next meeting will be and how long that'll go. So maybe for the sake of time, today's better, potentially. So I want to be real specific here on what I see as the constitutional flaws in our congressional map. I've spent the last couple of weeks, just as you did, Chairwoman, looking at the maps. in terms of the consideration of how I felt at the conclusion of those. As we know, we had very little time in between the approval that we made or the deliberations and then approval. So I have spent time looking at that. So I want to bring up my constitutional concerns about the congressional districts. As I said, I've already think I've expressed the legislative at our last meeting. So a lot of my concerns in terms of constitutional flaws relate to competitiveness, communities of interest, and geographic boundaries, those three things. And I'm going to be very specific and give you the items that I am concerned about as part of the Constitution. CD2 and CD9, I feel we could have had two very strong rural districts, and I feel that we did not accomplish that. From the beginning, there was a refusal to consider the constitutional requirements of geographic boundaries such as Mingus Mountain to increase competitiveness in especially CD2, to consider communities of interest and testimony. For example, the White Mountain communities saying they did not want to be with Prescott, Lake Havasu asking to be with Yavapai and Prescott, the West Valley of Maricopa County specifically saying they did not want to be in a rural district, and also the fact that the history of Western Yavapai has been to be with the Colorado River communities. We repeatedly, Commissioner Watchman and I made the point about these kinds of issues, and that Western Yavapai County and the Mojave County are used to being together. We could have had, as I said, two rural districts, one of which would have been competitive. We could have acknowledged that the Native Americans should have a voice in electing a representative that would be responsive to their needs, but we were denied those requests repeatedly. Instead, CD2 is not competitive, and there's clear evidence in map 8.4 that it could have been, which in my mind says that we did not properly address the Constitution with communities of interest, geography, and competitiveness. And CD9 will be more urban than rural, despite their requests. For CD6 and CD7, I feel that there was a complete manipulation of the borders. And while it does fall into our competitive range, we showed in maps 7.1, 9.1, 10.1, 11, 11.2, and 12 that it could have been even more competitive. And the decision on the last day was to make it less so. In terms of vote spread, it went from 4-5 to 3-6, Democrat to Republican. In CD3, we gave Councilwoman Pastor wide range of using requests for her boundaries that impacted the rest of the districts around those. The councilwoman requested boundaries that align with her Phoenix Council district, and thereby, if we look at the numbers, packed Democrats into a district, and that affected the competitiveness of CD1. We talked about historic districts a lot in that area, but not all historic districts are the same. And there was no reason that they all needed to be in a VRA district at that point. And every attempt that we made to modify that district was refused despite community of interest concerns. Overall, my feeling is, from a constitutional perspective, that competitiveness was not adequately considered, despite the fact that we brought this up over and over again. And I'll give you some very specific examples. And Chairwoman, you just went through some examples that I had also looked at about the election of our president in 2020 and senator in 2020. But when I look back at the data that we compiled, that we were using as competitiveness factors from the congressional districts, only 2 of 9 actually went from to the Democrats: the governor 2018 and treasurer. Secretary of State, Attorney General, mining, 2016 president, all were 3 of 9. So that is really not a balanced when it's those numbers when I went back and looked at that. But let me give you a few just examples, and then I'll be done on where I think that things did not follow the Constitution, despite our attempts to do so, or I should say my attempt and my colleague, Commissioner Watchman, his attempt as well. Since draft map 7.1, congressional map, and some earlier maps, CD1 went from a 1.6% with a 5-4 Democrat advantage. In map series 11, CD1 was 0.2% with a 5-4 Republican, and it ended with a 2.645 Republican advantage. CD2 in map 8.4 was at 1.1% with a 4-5 Republican advantage, and then it went to 7.1 with a 0.9 Republican advantage. CD3 went from 40% in map 7.1 with a 9.0 Democratic advantage to 53%. CD4 went from 5.6% to 7.0 with an 8.1 Democrat. CD5 went from 14.7 to 18.1% with a 0.9 Republican advantage. CD6 went from 0.1% in map 9.1, as competitive as it could be, with a 5.4 Democrat advantage to 2.4% with a 3.6 Republican advantage. CD7 went from a 20% in map 7.1 to 35.4% with a Democrat advantage. CD8 went from 4.1% to 15.3% with a 0.9 Republican advantage from a 3.6. There was no significant change in CD9. In fact, congressional map draft map 7.1 had 5 congressional districts with a single-digit vote spread. Time and again, our colleagues across the aisle rejected, the 3 colleagues across the aisle rejected our attempt to use competitiveness as a factor. It is part of the Constitution. The areas that we wanted to use it were not going to significantly change communities of interest. And it allowed the maps to be systematically modified, the borders, to increase the vote spread in many of these districts. The Democratic proposals 7.2, 8.4, 9.1, 10.12, 11.2, and 12 showed that we could have had competitive districts that honor all the constitutional criteria, but the maps that were approved do not do so, and these concerns will affect my final vote. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you for your comments. I think everyone has their subjective opinion about what facts lead to a constitutional CD map, but we're a democratic commission and every voice is equal. The map was a creation of democratic consensus, and I'm proud of the 5-0 vote. Some may have some buyer's remorse and wish for changes here and there. I do for sure, but the fact that is that it was a unanimous decision, and that speaks for itself. Monday morning quarterbacking does not do justice to our sincere and equitable process. I'd like to be able to move forward with the work that we've done, and if there's no further comments, I'll open it up to my colleagues. We can move on with the agenda. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, Executive Director's Report. We have 2 items, A, Public Records Update, and B, Final Map Approval and Certification Logistics. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First up for the public records update, I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Lori Van Haren is on a delayed flight right now and can't join us. She sent out the most recent public record request list to you all. We now ask to go into executive session to receive legal advice to the current public records request.
Okay, I will open it up to a motion to move into executive session, which will not be open to the public for the purpose of obtaining legal advice to further implement and or advance these legal issues pursuant to public records, ARS 38-431.03A3.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Watchman, motion to go into executive session regarding the public records update. I'm sorry, regarding the
York seconds.
Do I have a second? Was that Commissioner York?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do a quick vote. Vice Chair Watchman,
Aye.
Commissioner Meal,
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York,
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye. With that, we will move into executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice. We will resume in public session, give an update. Please X out of this link and go into the executive session link. Okay, I think we're just waiting for Vice Chair Watchman. Oh. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We just finished up executive session on agenda item 6, where we were seeking legal advice with fulfilling responsibility for public records requests. And with that, we will move to agenda item number 7, discussion of future agenda item requests. Anything would like to put on the agenda? Just, foreshadowing with item 8, announcements, and item 9, next meeting date. We are aiming to reconvene 2 weeks from today, January 18th, 8 a.m. to do the final map certification and address any other outstanding business items. But is there anything else that anybody would like to add to the agenda? Okay, again, a reminder, the next meeting date, January 18th. We'll move to agenda item number 10, closing of the public comments. Please note, members of the commission may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. With that, we move to agenda item number 11, adjournment. I will open it up. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Meal,
I'll second.
Okay, we have Commissioner Meal moving to adjourn. We have Vice Chair Watchman seconding that motion. We'll do a vote. Vice Chair Watchman.
Aye.
Commissioner Meal.
aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Aye.
Commissioner York.
Aye.
Commissioner Newberg is an aye. With that, we will adjourn, and I will look forward to seeing everybody 2 weeks from today. Take care. Bye-bye.